Greetings, colleagues. We are so delighted to have you join us today as we really begin to talk about the struggle is real, navigating mental well being for Black women during challenging times. I am joined today by my colleague, Dr. Janine Cross. We are both faculty members at the Howard University School of Social Work and principal investigators of the SAMHSA grant focused on mental health and well being. So, today we're going to spend time speaking with you about the challenges that are particular to African American women and other women of colors at this moment in time. I would like to also note that this is Social Work Month. And Social Work Month, we really are focused this year on uplifting, defending, and transforming. And as we go through this presentation, we really want to address these topics as it relates to mental health. Next slide. As we move to the next slide again, I will reintroduce myself and Dr. Cross. Next slide. And we have been involved with this project from the very beginning. So today we're going to talk about the historical context of mental health challenges for African American women in particular and other women of color, and addressing the impact of stress and as it relates to employment challenges, and also thinking about demonstrating self awareness of mental health challenges and guiding you to resources to support well being. Again, it is particularly important for us to think about this as an opportunity to address self care in the area of mental health. Next slide, please. So, as we delve into this, I wanted to really take a historical lens, just a moment of history. Given that this is Women's History Month as well, it's a great opportunity to kind of talk about how women have uplifted, defended, and transformed society as we think about it. But as you look at the slide, you will see that I have featured Ann Archer. Ann Archer was born in 1828 and died in 1869. I feature her because she was a woman, an enslaved woman, who suffered 30 experimental surgeries so that gynecological progress could be made in this country. I mentioned that, again, she had it without anesthesia. And sometimes we overlook the pain because we're looking at outcomes. But the outcome for her was pain. So African American women have had this experience throughout our lifetimes. When we looked at the enslaved period, there was also a mental health diagnosis, Dr. Cross, and I'm sure you are aware of this, called drapetomania, meaning that if you were desiring to escape from bondage, you had a mental health condition. And women have had a desire to escape from the bondage of sexism for all of our lives. So, therefore, that has been a mental health challenge that we've been working with. If we think about policy, affirmative action that was put into place, we were poised to benefit from that. And we did benefit from it, but not in isolation. Others benefited as much as we did during this particular time. And so now we are facing diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and it being attacked based upon the sense that there is no expertise. It is simply about wanting to place us in positions of importance, of power, and authority. Next slide. So, as we look at African American women, it is important at this moment in time to think about us and our place in society. The Times reported that Black women are the canary in the economic coal mine. So when we think about what has happened, we know that if focus is on meritocracy, we should be at the top of the pyramid. But unfortunately, the focus is not necessarily protecting Black women. We want to make sure that we are bringing this to the forefront at this point. According to the data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, Black women have the highest unemployment rate among all women. Just think about that for a moment and the historical connections that I just made. Despite policy initiatives, despite legislative progress, we are still behind in areas that matter. And it was our unemployment rate for among African American women was 7.1% in November compared to 3.4% of other women. Think about that. We're lagging. The numbers have been staggering. The loss of 319,000 jobs or more that Black women were in. So when we think about the U.S. labor market, we are indeed the canary in the economic coal mine. HBCU Money reports that the number of unemployed Black women is at a 5-month high. Colleagues, we are in serious times, and we have to uplift, defend, and transform as we think about this. So, Black women are often seen as the bellwether. What's happening to us is happening to our families as well. So, today we wanted to spend some time talking to you about things you might do to improve your mental health and mental well being during this particular time. Again, when we look at Black women, we're still looking at the center of families. So it includes not just Black women, but the family structures that we serve, whether we are a parent, whether we are a partner, whether we are a caregiver for parents or siblings. Black women carry tremendous burden in society, but we have strengths. We never, in social work, School of Social Work, we never think about the negative without really thinking about the strengths of the Black family. So, with that, I'm going to pass this off to my colleague, Dr. Janine Cross, who is a licensed clinical social worker and an associate professor at Howard University School of Social Work.
Thank you so much for passing that on to me, Dr. Crew. Next slide, please. As we're transitioning to this slide, I just want to emphasize some of the important things that was said by my colleague, Dr. Crew. It's really important to understand the impact of the economical times on Black families and these job losses, particularly for Black women, because we're primarily the head of households for our families. And so impacts to our mental health and well-being is felt throughout the entire family. Understanding the impact of racism on mental health in the Black community is therefore important, particularly for our Black women. And as we know that this goes beyond what you see in social media, what you hear on Instagram and Facebook, when you see these celebrities or entertainers with mental health challenges. Yes, they're important because they help raise awareness with these issues. But it's important to really talk about me and you, people like us, the everyday neighbor, your colleagues, your coworkers, your student friends, people in your family that may be going through struggles. It oftentimes is grounded in stress and racism fueled stress. And we see that a lot going on in terms of oppressive structures in our country even today. I like that that case study, that historical case study provided by my colleague, because as she was talking, I was just thinking here, imagining like, wow, can you imagine being in a predominant slavery environment in which some people are experimenting on you. They are doing matters of atrocities to you. And then you're oppressed, and there's nothing that you can do about it. And so, in that aspect, she provides a beacon to us of understanding that this isn't the first time Black women have been treated in appalling ways in our country. And so we need to remember that and use those case studies to help build strengths. Again, not to focus on pathologies or things wrong, but to understand that, we are strong and we will continue to endure and be strong. And even today, we're still oftentimes at the mercy of dominant structures as it relates to our well-being. When we lose our job, our healthcare is associated with that, and not just our ability to just to take care of our primary healthcare, our women's health issues, family planning, our ability to take care of our children, all that. And so there's a stress associated with that job loss. And then another thing I was thinking about when my colleague was talking was then when you want to escape that bondage, escape those oppressive structures, then you are then deemed as something is wrong with you. And then now a diagnosis is created to help you or to continue to vilify you and make you feel less than for wanting your freedom, wanting to have choice and options over your life and not be a victim of structural circumstances.
Dr. Cross, I want to jump in here for a moment. I was recently at the hair salon, and the my hairstylist said, we don't think about how it impacts businesses that are owned by women who serve women. So, and if you think about the economic situation, when individuals give advice such as, well, you should really conserve and save and no longer go to the hairdresser, her thought was, but what about me?
Mhm.
That means my business is going to implode. So when we kind of think about it, we have to not only look at self, we have to also look at those who are in the business of primarily serving African American women.
Correct, correct. And the stressors associated with when people lose their jobs and then they can't then continue to contribute to the supply chain. Next slide, please. And so when we talk about mental health, we will be talking today about some mental health disorders today, and how oftentimes I'm going to connect how mental health is very much connected to our environmental circumstances. So the World Health Organizations defines mental health as a combination of your physical well-being as well as your mental well-being and your social well-being. So when we think about mental health, I will be talking today about a couple of diagnoses to consider and some of the more prevalent ones when we're in challenging times. But I want you to think more broadly as I have this discussion about mental health and really think about it from the physical well being, your safety, your communities, your ability to care for yourself, pay your bills, as well as the mental piece, which are the disorders I'm going to talk about and some of the treatments that we can use to help support that. But also, when you think about mental health, also broaden that to your social well being. These are your friends, your family members. All of these things are part of the mental health equation. And so, all three of these areas need to be congruent and aligned for you to have good mental health.
Now,
Next slide,
Dr.
please.
Cross, does that include spiritual well being?
Absolutely, absolutely. We need to make sure, specifically as people of color, that we're tending to our spiritual health. And oftentimes, when permitted, when we know that I'm working with a client that is aligned with belief systems, we talk about how we lean on our spirituality to help support our mental health. And yes, we're having one and the same conversation. Now, all people aren't spiritually connected. And so we just focus on the therapeutic tools, but we do consider spirituality as a resource for support. Next slide, please. And so there are a lot of things when we talk about the losses that are going on. These are the structural challenges that we're dealing with today. Companies are reducing their workforces due to stressors, demands, trends that are going on in our economy, as well as policy. And so what happens is when businesses start feeling the hit, they start pulling back and saving. Just like families, we start cutting back on things we're spending on. We try to really get very lean and make sure that we're paying just for things that are absolutely necessary. And so businesses follow the same line of thinking. And so sometimes there are a lot of people finding themselves in the job market looking for jobs because of the reduction in workforce due to layoffs, downsizing of companies, um, um, termination of whole departments. And we're seeing that both in the private sector as well as in the federal sector. We also have to look at automation along with those policy changes. There's a lot of investments now and growth in AI, for example. And I'm sure you've been to the supermarket and see how many of the self-checkout lanes that are now starting to become more evident. Now, yeah, they're efficient, and yeah, sometimes it helps with the long lines, but it also means that sometimes there's going to be a reduction in workforce associated with that. And oftentimes, we're also seeing a lot of companies also going through structural reorganizations. And sometimes this means that higher level employees, such as executives and higher level administrators, are being terminated. We're seeing mass layoffs across sectors too, even in healthcare, and even in the private business sectors. All you have to do is watch the news, listen to social media, and see that there's historical layoffs happening in certain sectors. So there's is a reason we're in a crisis. And what we do know, as my colleague Dr. Crew mentioned, Black women are feeling the brunt of these layoffs. Next slide, please.
As we change slides, Dr. Cross, you mentioned watching the news.
Mhm.
That too can be a source of stress as we are watching the wars in our country. We are watching the pain and suffering. So sometimes it's advised that we turn the news off.
It definitely serves as a trigger, and there is a thing called overflooding of triggering responses to stress and stressful circumstances. And so the three areas I want to talk about, these are diagnoses that focus on challenges with mood, depression, anxiety, and adjustment disorder. Oftentimes, when people lose their job, as we mentioned earlier, or feel helpless to deal with things that are going on around them, they are at risk for having depression, anxiety, or struggling with a source of stress, which would then be the adjustment disorder. Next slide, please. I'm seeing many people as a clinical social worker come to be seen by therapists, social workers, and psychologists to help cope and manage with stress due to job loss. And one of the main diagnoses that clients are suffering from right now is major depression, and that's persistent sadness, irritability, sleep disturbance, or appetite disturbance. Sleep disturbance can mean sleeping too much or can't sleep at all, insomnia. And insomnia can mean either difficulty falling asleep or difficulty staying asleep. Appetite disturbance, also, same thing. That could be loss of appetite, unable to eat, or it could be what I call comfort eating, overeating, to feel better about things. Also, loss of interest in activities, particularly if these are things that you normally enjoy to do. Associated with that is lack of motivation. Also, loss of energy, feeling like you don't want to get out of bed or struggle to get out of bed. Feeling of helplessness, and thoughts of self harm, including suicide. Now, it's important to note that even before these challenges that we had in our economy, about 20 to 25% of people of the general population suffer from depression. Next slide, please. Anxiety is another mood disorder. Pretty much, it's excessive worry, chronic, exaggerated worry about everyday routine life events, but even worry about non routine events like fear of losing your job, having an unfavorable employee evaluation. And then that can trigger your anxiety and fear that you're going to lose your job. But sometimes the thoughts just don't stop at I'm going to lose my job. Then it's I'm going to lose my job. I'm not going to be able to pay my mortgage. I'm going to be homeless. Um, my partner is going to leave me because I lose my job. It's those racing thoughts that you spiral out of control with. And these thoughts are intense. They last at least 6 months. These constant worry, and it's fatigue and exhaustion associated with those racing thoughts. People, when they suffer from anxiety, they don't want to keep having these worrisome thoughts. They want to be able to relax and calm these thoughts, but they're unable to. Um, I compare it often to being on a roller coaster. And when the roller coaster goes up and you're getting really excited, the adrenaline is starting to flow. And right before the roller coaster drops down and you release that excitement and that scream, it just hangs there at the top of the roller coaster. That's what it feels like to have anxiety. And so there's a physiological component with anxiety too. And so oftentimes it can be felt in the body as pains, or other type of sensation, or even sometimes mistaken for health issues. This can be headaches and migraines. This can be chest pains, where sometimes people feel like they're having a heart attack and they need to go to the emergency room. Oftentimes that's anxiety, especially when the tests come back, when they're in the ER. And then their tests come back normal, then it wouldn't be uncommon for an emergency room doctor to make a referral for them to see a therapist because that could be anxiety. Also, shortness of breath or hyperventilating, fast heart rate. Sometimes when you're struggling to breathe and it's related to anxiety, it can mimic an asthma attack. So sometimes people think they're having an asthma attack and it's really a severe anxiety reaction and or a panic attack. And so again, migraines, it can also be stomach aches. When you have anxiety, especially for a period of time and you don't get any relief from it. That could be constipation as well as and diarrhea. It can also be pains in the body, back, shoulder, tension, stress, stiffness, lower back pains. These are the physiological symptoms that can be associated with anxiety. Next slide, please. And so adjustment disorder is a reaction to a stressful life event. So it's emotional and behavioral symptoms in response to a specific identifiable stressor. This can be a loss of a job. This can be a divorce. And usually you have these emotional and behavioral responses, stress responses within 3 months of the stressing event. And so, in short, we are seeing a lot of clients come into therapy because they're dealing with depression, sadness, irritability, inability to sleep due to either direct job loss or fear of loss, anxiety, excessive worry about their job and how they're going to be able to be okay during these stressful times, or adjustment disorder where they actually lost their job and they're dealing with a lot of extreme levels of stress related to that job loss. Next slide, please.
As we transition the slides, Dr. Cross, I recently spoke with someone who was extremely concerned that she would not be able to support her child's choice for a college education. They had worked a long time and her daughter had done really well, but now she's facing the situation because she's lost her employment and changes in the Department of Education that they are not offering as much financial support. Is it possible that she could fall into one of those three areas that you spoke about?
Absolutely. Now she's not my client, so I haven't been assessed her, but it could definitely be adjustment disorder, adjusting to the change in her work situation. And the adjustment to that is her inability to take care of her child, is particularly as it relates to her educational needs. I can also see that particular woman going through anxiety. That's the excessive worry. The worry of knowing that your daughter did her part, but now you're worried that you can't do your part to support her educational needs. And I can easily see that woman sinking into a place of sadness, crying, depressed mood, loss of interest in things because she's just so upset and sad and maybe feel guilty, even with herself, about her inability to take care for her child.
She
Um,
feels like she's letting her daughter down.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. I would recommend that she sees a therapist. And then I'll just add to that, there's a concern about students, about people in their job and ability to take care of their kids. There's fear for our students, about things that are going on in our country right now about their ability to pay for school. And we also have in May recent grads who will now be out in the job market. And there's a concern about them not being able to find a job in this market as well. Plus, you have people who have been looking for work in the last 3 to 4 months or even longer. And now they have even more competition with the graduates coming out, which is going to make it a little bit more tougher to find a job. And so, associated with this, I want to add is the stages of grief. It's not uncommon for someone to feel loss and grief at a job loss. Okay. Especially for those who've been in jobs for long periods of time. I know the newer generations, we don't keep jobs long, but there are earlier generations that it was not common to stay in a job for 15, 25, 30 years. And so your identity oftentimes is very much grounded in your job. And so the loss of job isn't always just the loss of job. Sometimes it's who you are, it's how you identify when you've been doing something for 20 or 30 years. Sometimes it's the loss of colleagues, loss of the community. Your job is a community and sometimes a supportive community for some people. People make lifelong friends from jobs. So the termination of the job is sometimes means more than just a job loss and pay and benefits and ability to take care of your family. You lose your entire support system. And sometimes some people's colleagues are like family to them. And so it wouldn't be uncommon for people to feel this or go through the stages of grief that's associated with the job loss, which is not a mental health disorder. Okay. So shock and denial at a job loss and still struggling with the fact that you've lost your job and that you no longer have that routine or that support. Sometimes it could be anger, frustration, irritation, mad because of the circumstances. Some people are angry not because they lost their job because of job performance. Maybe the job downsized and terminated the department or policy changes that resulted. And that can make someone feel very angry. Also, depression and detachment. People feel overwhelmed, lack of energy, helplessness. Um, Dialogue and bargaining is a stage of grief. Well, maybe if I would have came to work a lot more earlier, maybe I should have processed more than the standard amount of cases for my job, and this would not have happened to me. Maybe I should have took that promotion when they offered it to me, and this wouldn't happen to me. That's the bargaining dialogue, the what ifs, if you will. And then you eventually get to the stage of acceptance and the stage of grief. And the acceptance isn't, oh, I accepted that I lost my job. The acceptance is the place where you've reconciled the earlier stages of grief. And now you can begin the healing process from the loss. And in this situation, it will be a loss of a job. And now you're able to now be more productive and engage in those task centered or therapeutic tools necessary to help further facilitate the healing process. Next slide, please. And
And
so,
Dr. Cross, as I think about, I'm an ethnogerontologist, meaning that I work with older persons of color. I've encountered some individuals also who have had to delay retirement
mhm,
because they were caring for grandchildren or they were caring for their children because they felt that they too couldn't lose their employment at this moment of time. So it really stretches across all phases of life, from early life to later life, with African American women and women of color. The
mhm.
stress continues to build upon itself.
And I appreciate you saying that. What we try to do a better job at now is looking at stress as well as mental health challenges across the lifespan. Because what it may look like to have depression, anxiety, or adjustment disorder as a teenager may look very different in an older adult, a young adult versus an older adult, as well. And so it's understanding what depression looks like across the life cycle, as well as anxiety and adjustment. It may present very different depending on your age. And so this is a picture of a zebra saying he has a lot of stress. And this is just to really emphasize the point that stress impacts your body. And so we need to realize and recognize what's going on with our bodies, to notice that sometimes stress can fall in that. And particularly with depression, that could be weight loss, weight gain, depressed mood, and crying. That's probably the visual effects of what you would see. And for anxiety, it could be those pains or headaches or those other things going on in your body that I mentioned earlier. Next slide, please.
Yeah, that slide showed that she was losing her stripes. And sometimes we just lose our stripes and need to reach out to individuals. And this slide really kind of talks about a strategy that's often used by people, coloring. So I thought it was a delightful slide to say, there is help. Even though we're kind of talking about the issues and the problems, there is help that we can get. And sometimes talking with each other, even being on a webinar like this, provides us with the motivation that we need to reach out and get some help. It really isn't an advertisement for the Crayola company, but saying there are different things, and coloring, adult coloring, is one of those more simple things that one can do to help to manage some of their stressful situations.
Next slide, please. And I think the benefits of the coloring is really the engaging in the activity that can help you stay focused on something, that doesn't have your mind racing with anxiety, or engaging in an activity that you're not that helps boost your mood, or at least help you not get into those spirals in with anxiety or that depressed state, as in with depression. And so this is QR code. If you have a second here, and we're going to keep talking, but if you have a second, please scan these QR code. The one on the left is from Mental Health America. It's an anxiety test, and the one on the right is depression test. You can take them both, or one of them if you think you might suffer based on the symptoms I talked to you before. And these are good resources to have whenever you want to do a status check. It's like a thermometer for your mental health. If you ever think you have a fever and you go into your bathroom and you take the thermometer just to see if you feel it, because you feel a little warm, you can always jump into one of these Mental Health America tests. If you feel like you're worrying a lot any given week, you could take an anxiety test. If you feel like you're a little depressed, or a little sad, during any given week, you could take a depression test as well. If you do decide to take it, answer the questions on this screen. And then when you get to the end of the questions, do not enter your demographic information. You don't have to. You can click on Take Me Directly to My Results. So you answer the questions. It's about 2 screens of questions. And then once you answer those questions, go to Directly Take Me to My Results. You do not have to put in any identifying information for this. But sometimes when you take these screens, they do ask for information, because they 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 do an evaluation of how many people use their screens, and for their reports, how many younger people, how many adolescents took the screens, how many African Americans took the screens, how many women took the screens. So sometimes they ask for demographic information just to see who's using these screens for their reports. Next slide, please. But I put this on here because you can always be empowered to understand where your mental health is at any given time. If you thought you had a fever and if you thought you were sick, you would take out a thermometer. The screens are available. These are free screens that you can use, and they have more than anxiety and depression on Mental Health America website. So let's say you took a screen and it came back positive, right? It just doesn't come back positive. It gives you recommendations as well. Now, please note these are screens. They are not diagnoses. If you want a firm diagnosis, you would see a therapist for that, or counselor or therapist. But what the screens do is they help you get an understanding of what's going on with you. And if you need more evidence, or if you need that extra motivation to see somebody, the screens can help based on your results. Okay. So what if you get a positive screen, or the screen says, hey, you might be experiencing some depression, or you might be experiencing some anxiety. So we have some therapeutic tools for you. Gold standard is to see a therapist so that you can be plugged into the appropriate treatment plan for your mental health needs. That could be mental health medication such as antidepressant or anti-anxiety medicine or something else. Um, or it could mean just talk therapy and psychosocial treatments, which I listed here on this side, or it could be a combination of both. You will most likely, the plan will also determine on the severity of your diagnosis. You can have mild depression, you can have moderate depression, or you can have severe depression. And the same thing with your symptoms with anxiety. It could be mild, moderate, or severe. If you're mild, usually psychosocial treatments like what's on this slide helps. Sometimes if you're mild to moderate, again, these psychosocial treatments can help by themselves. When clients start to get moderate or moderate to severe, sometimes the psychosocial treatments alone do not work, and sometimes medication is needed. Okay. It doesn't mean that the treatments, the psychosocial treatments don't work. It means sometimes your symptoms are too severe and you need an extra boost. Okay. So thought records are part of CBT. They help you restructure your thoughts. You can Google this,
Dr. Cross, what is CBT?
cognitive behavioral therapy.
Oh, okay.
So thought records help you target your thoughts. So what it basically, the premise of CBT is that if we can help you with your negative thoughts, your dark thoughts, your self-deprecating thoughts that you have about yourself, or whatever your automated thoughts about yourself is that starts the spiral of depression or anxiety, we can improve your overall mood. So what it does, it helps you reframe your thoughts, refocus your thoughts, and restructure your thoughts, which then will help improve your mood and then ultimately your behavior. Okay. Mindfulness and meditation also works. It works with depression and anxiety. We find it very helpful for anxiety because it helps calm the body, help calm your brain. But the flip side is meditation is very hard when you're anxious. Your mind is racing and it's hard to slow it down. If you could slow it down, you wouldn't have anxiety. So mindfulness and meditation helps teaches you exercises on how to slow your mind down. Here are some apps that can help you do that. Headspace and Calm, Insight Timer, as well as Breath Work. These are well recognized therapeutic apps that help support your needs. It also puts the power of your support in your hand as well. Headspace is guided meditation. Calm is too. I list Calm on here because a lot of employers utilize Calm and allow it and allow access to it for their employees for free. If you are not working, you don't have access, it's still available to you, just it may come at a cost. Another app I would like to recommend is called Dailyo. It is a mood tracker. It sends you periodic screens. It also is a diary and a journal, and it also allows you to enter your wellness, your self care, such as if you want to color or do word puzzles or whatever it is to stay focused. Legos, if you want to paint, draw, journal, go to the gym, dance, take dance classes, cook, whatever it is, healthy cooking, whatever it is, you can enter in that self-care activity. And what Dailyo does is when you submit your screens, if your screen results come back high, it'll say, hey, Janine, your depression screen is a little high today. Why don't you go for a walk? Because when you go for walks, your screen results are lower. So what it does is it learns you, does the algorithm of what you put in it. It takes that data and then it gives you suggestions on ways to improve your mood. And task center resources, we kind of talked about that already. That's your painting. And a therapist can help you create a plan that's customized for you. We just don't pick things out the air. What we do is we understand what your strengths are, things that you enjoy doing. We help you see how depression and anxiety is inhibiting those things and put you on the plan to help you feel better. Next slide, please.
So, Dr. Cross, is this biofeedback a part of all of this?
No, it's actually separate. Biofeedback is a tool where a therapist can put little leaflets on your body and basically understand your body and things that is going on, and it teach you how to regulate your heart rate, your breathing, and those other physiological aspects of your body to help you calm down. However, there are a lot of devices on the market that I'll be interested to see in the future how they help us you how we use that to help regulate our body. These things are like your Apple watches that tell you your heart rate and your pace. There's this ring now that I'm hearing is very popular amongst clients, where if you put it on, I don't know the name, it's called Aurora or something like that. Y'all probably know that better than me, but you put the ring on, and what it does is it tells you a lot about your body, your breathing, your heart rate, your temperature, how well you're sleeping. It's a form of biofeedback, is what I'm suggesting here. And so there's traditional biofeedback, but I think now we're seeing a lot of technology come into the market where people are taking their bodily functions more on a day-to-day basis to help them improve themselves. I'm even told that it helps with reproductive and family planning. It tells when you're ovulating and stuff. I think that's a little TMI, but
Okay. Well, I
that's
think
what it is.
what it tells me is there's an opportunity for us to really have a session at some point
Mm,
about using technology and intersectionality with mental health. So thanks for
yeah.
sharing that.
Yes, stay tuned. There will be probably another series coming on the biofeedback and how we use that with mental health and to help support mental health, and what we do with all that data. So this slide right here is an advocacy solution. If you scan this QR code, it will take you to the NAACP website. When you scan it, it's going to come up, because it's a nonprofit. You're going to probably get a pop up for a donation, which is not the reason why I posted this here. It's to let you see that there's a Protect Black Workers petition. So cancel out that donation request unless you want to donate to the NAACP. And you'll see it'll provide some information about the Black workers' health crisis. And that petition is asking for a moratorium on federal job losses. It's also requesting an employment study to better understand the impacts of these job losses on people of color. And that um, petition also asks for a pause and a reassessment of dismantling of DEI. These are some advocacy things that you can be doing to help support the cause and to do more to help make changes in our um, in our political life to help change things for us to make things better. So, yes, we're talking about therapeutic tools, right? We're talking about managing your mental health, but we also have to understand that there are structural things going on in our world that's causing the stress. And so sometimes it feels better and it helps empower you to do something about the root causes and to start making some changes in those structural issues that are causing the stress. Next slide, please.
Well, I think, when we think about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and how it has been linked to incompetence, we as Black women know that we are competent. And so we reject the notion that being hired because of one's diversity is not a negative. It is really about competence. And we have to affirm that in every place and space that we're in, so that our sisters don't feel like they are really given a label that doesn't attach to them. So
Mhm.
diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging are the same as competence, a high level of competence. And we have to also always be ready to assert that.
Mhm. And here I want to do a quick plug. As Dr. Crew mentioned earlier, at Howard University School of Social Work, we have a Howard University Mental Health Awareness and Suicide Prevention Grant. We call it HUMHAS. And through that grant, we are providing mental health awareness, mental health first aid training, specifically to organizations in the neighborhoods in our communities. We're also providing these trainings across campus to build the mental health infrastructure for our university. And we do this through mental health first aid and question, persuade, and refer QPR suicide prevention training. And I will add some additional resources specifically to help. For those who are struggling with job loss or concern about job loss, there are things we can do. There are task centered things that you can do to help support yourself. And some of them, a lot of clients are using resume writing services, and there are plenty of Black owned resume writing services. For example, Tawana Woods has a resume writing service. You can Google that. Layfield Resume Consulting. There's also a program called A Cup of Tea with Black Women, which is also a resume writing service. Professional development is also an area to go to help boost your skills if you're in between jobs right now. And this can be done through career coaching and other methods. There are programs and companies out there, again, Black owned. One is called Black on the Job, which helps with professional development. U Work, which is the letter U Work, which is Henry Bell. There are also career coaching services. Dr. Kim Harris is an executive coaching, and Mercedes Swan is also a career coach. And there's also another company called Black Career Women's Network, BCWN. These are all resources that you can use to help support you. If you're in between jobs, if you're struggling or you're constantly interviewing and still not having any luck with jobs, we want to make sure you have the resources that you need to be successful. And be patient and do not lose hope. It seems as if the average job hunt now is easily 3 to 4 months. And that's if you're currently working and just afraid you're going to lose your job or know that job loss is imminent. It's taking about easily 3 to 4 months. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Dr. Cross, so much. Colleagues, have you ever heard the statement, black don't crack? And we often use it as it relates to aging, but I've been thinking about this a lot as it relates to mental health. So if we hold on to statements such as that, then we may not look and seek the help that will get us through these times. So this is the most important time in your life to network with each other. We are a source of support for each other during this time frame. So I don't want you to walk around with the notion that black don't crack. Yeah, we do crack. We crack like everyone else, but what is there are the strengths and resilience of our community. So I want to make sure that we are encouraged by the strengths that we have. So, but when we think of things that mentally strong people do when they experience a job loss, one is to create a new healthy routine. Sometimes we can fall into routines that are not healthy in terms of moving forward with the job search. Since we don't have to get up and go to work or whatever that is, then we may replace it with some unhealthy behavior. But here's an opportunity to maintain those healthy behaviors. We also want to move forward with your job search. Every day you have an assignment, something related to the job search, even if that assignment is to better understand why you were not selected for the position that you applied for. But every day there's a job assignment, whether it's looking for a job or really strengthening yourself for an interview, the work is there for you to do. You also have to acknowledge your feelings. It's okay to be a little upset about this because it has turned your life upside down and all around. So it's okay to acknowledge your feelings, but not dwell in the negativity of the loss. And that's for many people where spirituality comes in as well. But again, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of networking and sharing your experiences and the fact that you are in the job market. Next slide, please. So it is a constant movement there, but sometimes you really don't feel up to it. But we have to really think about how do we move forward? What are some mentally healthy things that we can do? So Dr. Cross has also talked about journaling your thoughts. It is really important to have a way of thinking about what has happened to you and how you move to the next steps. And journaling is known to be a positive way of processing that information. We want you to remain confident in your skills. If you were a DEI hire, that's okay, because you were hired because you were competent, and you are still competent. So we want you to make sure that you stay focused on, I am good at this. The fact that I lost my job does not indicate that I am not good at what it is that I do. So I think we always have to be able to kind of be reminded of that and think about those transferable skills that we have. We just can't always find the position that we had. We want the position that will move us beyond that. And so often, when I have interviewed individuals, Dr. Cross, they fail to mention their transferable skills, things that they had in another position, another job title, but they still have the skills. They are great organizers, they are great team builders, they are great at accounting, they are great at practice areas, but you can't lose those skill sets because someone decided that your job was no longer needed. It's your job that they got rid of. You are a part of that, but not you. They didn't get rid of your skill sets. And some of them may be coming back for you soon because they recognize the hole that was left. So, you know, apply for some jobs that you don't think you qualify for. That's how that transferability works. You may not have ever held that particular position, but think deeply. Are there some things that I was doing on the position that I left that I could apply to this new position? And give that some thought. And sometimes that goes better when you connect with someone else and you say, hey, here's this position I want to apply for. What skills do you think I bring to the table? So, in addition to being self aware, we have to think about how we can take in the awareness of others. And Dr. Cross, I always recommend mock interviews. Have a mock interview with someone who has been in the position of hiring and have them uh, really help to coach you. Coaches are excellent, and you don't always have to pay for them. Now, I'm not saying don't go to the coach. If there's a Black woman out there as a coach, really use her services. But coaches are out there and they want to help you. And we have to get beyond the embarrassment and the disappointment sometimes to really seek the help that's there for us.
Mhm.
So hopefully that's helpful to someone. You are competent, you are excellent, you are all that, a bag of chips and a Coke on the side. So you
Next
are
slide,
the
please. Mhm. Next slide, please. Go ahead, Tinker. I didn't mean to cut you.
988 is a suicide crisis a lifeline. So if you are feeling that you need some support, uh, that is a line that you can call if you're experiencing crisis at that point. So we want you to remember that number, 988, and it's available 24/7.
Mhm. Next slide. Okay. So we're at our questions phase. And this is important because you are answering my questions. Dr. Crow had questions for you. And she was like, I'm like, she's answering my questions before I get a chance to answer them. So we're here. We're here. So you made a good point. Sometimes it's not about skill set. Sometimes it's about fit. It's not about competence, but sometimes it's fit. And sometimes it's just situations out of your control. I want to ask you some questions that people might benefit from, Dr. Crew. And you used to be an administrator. You have held executive positions. You've hired many people. What skills you think are necessary, or what are some of the skills you think people should be focusing on to help them be competitive
Mm-hmm.
in the market? And some of this you said already, so you might have to
Mm-hmm.
repeat it.
As
So,
I said, flexibility, but also, it's really important for you to examine what you bring to the table. So the skills are related to what the position is asking for, but you need to describe how your skills match that.
okay. another question I had, and this might be connected. What skills do managers look for that may not show up on the resume? Was that what you meant in terms of some of the transferable things? There's some things that you've learned from certain jobs that
Mhm,
you can transfer into other jobs?
mhm. That's part of it, but the other part is to think about, let the person know that, even though these are the skills I bring, I am open to learning new things.
Mhm.
And I have always been a person open to flexibility. When they first brought the computer on the market, I was the first one with my hand up. I don't know a thing about computers, but hire me because I'm the individual who'll be willing to learn, and not only learn, to teach and share with others.
What piece of advice would you give someone who is trying to enter the current market?
Build your self confidence. Go into it with, I know that I can handle this, and convince them, given the opportunity, then you will make them better in their position. So you are there to support them. You want to excel in whatever you do, but you also want to be a leader. You
Mhm.
want to be a leader in whatever the industry that you are really being attached to. And that is not always on the resume itself. That is how one presents themselves.
Mhm.
And again, being open to diversity. When you walk into the place, make sure you touch base with the receptionist, with the maintenance person. Let them know too that you are a person who really appreciates the skill set that they bring. And of course, always research the position that you are applying for.
I'm going to ask a couple of the questions in a different type way. If you were starting a career today, what would you do differently?
I don't know that I would do anything differently, because I chose to be a social worker, and so what I really sought to do was to use that educational preparation. So what I would say to people, if you're interested in an area, make sure you get the educational preparation, whether that's workforce or education. So thinking back, I don't think I would have done anything differently. But I would encourage other people to make sure you seek the qualifications. I'll give an example though. When I was the director of a housing authority, I had not had accounting classes. So I immediately went to community college and enrolled in accounting classes. So evaluate and assess your own areas of growth before someone else does.
And what are the common mistakes people make on their application or in their interview, do you think?
Well, on applications, when you are filing so many applications, you have a habit of cutting and pasting. So make sure you don't cut and paste information that's not relevant to the job that I have on the market.
Mhm.
So you really want to make sure that you are uniquely applying for the position and it's not a generic application. Too often I've seen information that, oh, that was not related to the position that I was asking you for. And I can't emphasize enough. Uh, if you're going to use cover letters, please make sure you check them in terms of grammar, spelling, and all of that, because that's a red flag if you haven't given that the attention needed.
What are some actionable steps attendees can take today to improve their job search? You kind of mentioned it already, and then we
Hmm.
have a chat.
Hmm.
I want to answer somebody's question in the chat.
What you really want to do is rehearse with someone to see what they see, someone that you trust, a trusted person. So that's an actionable step. Redo your resume. And again, just don't assume that one resume fits the description for everything. But I also know a lot of positions are online. And be very careful about using AI, because what I've seen with AI, if a number of applicants are giving the same answer, they know that you did not give the thought to that question. So I would certainly suggest that you pay attention to those areas.
And there's also a question in the chat. Nikki Johnson wants to know what straightforward resume writing services are available that are free. That's a good one. I'm seeing more online tools that people are using for resume writing in general. Some of them are free, some of them are not. There's some like Resume Builder. But I worked with a client not too long ago, and what I found for that particular client was each state has a work development force or workforce development program. And so I strongly encourage you to check your state, your county government. Sometimes they have free workshops, free um, resume building services. Also check with your public libraries. If anyone has children and they go to the library, they have a lot of workshops on their resume building workshops in the library too. So there are a lot of public resources available out there for you to help you with resume writing and workforce development. So they have workforce recruitment program and workforce development programs, but oftentimes they're very specific to the state and the region that you're in. And if you can't, or if you're in an area or rural area where there's not a lot available, then a lot of people are using different type of websites to help build their resume. But be careful, some of them do cost, and sometimes they give you like a trial period in which you can use it to revamp or revise your resume during that trial period. If you do it, just don't forget to cancel the subscription after you tried it out. I hope that was helpful for you, Nikki. But please check your local state government resources, and just your there are a lot of nonprofit programs out there that also help with resume, and they offer those free services to the public. Thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you all so much, and please complete the survey.
Yes.
That would be very helpful for us to make sure we continue webinars such as this. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Have a good
And
day.
good luck.
Good luck
For
with
those
your
of you who are seeking jobs, good luck.